Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to discuss my top 10 tips for getting back into reading. So whether you have been in a little bit of a reading slump or you want to get started into reading, you never were really interested in it before, this is the video for you. Make sure to like this video, subscribe if you want to see more from this channel. Okay, so a little bit of background for me. I used to be huge into reading when I was a kid and a teen. I would be that person who would be walking to school literally with a book in my face. But I would say once I kind of got into university, I slowly started to read less and less until about a year ago, I wasn't really reading at all. So the ways that I have gotten back into reading are following these tips and also by starting this YouTube channel. So little bonus tip right before we even start. Starting a YouTube channel based on reading can really help you get back into it. All right, but let's get into these tips now. My first tip for you is to figure out why you want to start reading. There are a number of reasons why you would want to start reading. So maybe you want to feel a little bit more cultured. Maybe you have friends who read and you want to be able to join in on their discussions. Maybe you just want to read specific books like self-help books or learn about a different subject. There are really tons of reasons why you might want to get into reading. So figuring out your why can really help to direct you and feel like you have a purpose on where you want to go. The second tip is to start with a nostalgic book. So this is a great tip for figuring out your very first book that you're going to start reading. If you ever were into reading in the past, especially in your childhood, starting with something that's really easy and just brings back good memories is such an important step. So for me, that would be a book like Harry Potter or The Frog Princess. I grew up reading those. They're a super easy read, something that you're not going to get tired of because it's way too long or feel like it's too daunting. So starting with a nostalgic, easy book is definitely a good way to go. Step 2 is to determine what your favorite genres are and then read within those. It's a good shout to actually look into books that you're interested in. You don't want to just read a book just because your friend or a parent recommended it and you really aren't interested in the subject matter. Reading books that you are interested in is definitely a good way to get your motivation back for reading. Tip number 4 is to purchase a new book. Picking out a new book can actually help motivate you to actually read. You've put money in it, you've invested in it, you spent time deciding what you want to read. So purchasing a new book can sometimes help you get that kickstart that you need to get back into reading. Conversely, tip number 5 is to actually get books from the library. Often libraries will have a deadline that you have to get the book back by. So by getting a book from the library, this means that you are under a bit of pressure to be able to finish the book. The only thing is you want to make sure you don't get like 6 books at once because then you'll just have so many books and you won't be able to finish and you'll stress yourself out. I've been there. Maybe start with 1 book from the library, and having that deadline should help you stay on course with your books. Now that you've decided the first book or 2 that you want to start with, the next tip is to set some reading goals. So this tip isn't really for everyone. For me, I actually don't like to put a lot of pressure on my reading because I put pressure on myself in a lot of different areas. So reading for me is just to enjoy and escapism. I don't want to feel pressured. But for some people, this can really help if you do have a big goal to get so many books done. Often people will maybe start with like a book a month, figuring out where that fine balance is between goal that's going to push you and something that is too much pressure, too unattainable. So finding the balance is really important, but sometimes having reading goals can help you get back into reading and encourage you to just read throughout your week. On a similar note, tracking your progress is also super helpful. So you don't want to say you want to read a book a month and then just not even have any sort of method to record what you've actually read. So whether you have just a notes app on your phone, just writing down, or else even bullet journaling can help you pay attention to what you are actually reading, and keeping a list of what you read is kind of fun as well. Tip number 7 is to schedule in some reading time. It's great that now you have the books you want to read, you have a goal in mind, but you need to actually schedule in some time for yourself to be able to read. For some people, that could be maybe reading over breakfast, or bringing your book to work and reading at lunch, or else you can actually schedule time maybe like after school or after work, or on the weekends. Just finding time that works for you to be able to consistently get that reading in. Tip number 8 is to make or join a book club. So again, this one isn't necessarily for everyone, and it doesn't have to be an actual book club. Even just having a reading buddy, 1 or 2 friends that will keep you accountable and maybe also read the same books that you're reading so you can discuss them. And this way you can also expand into books that you maybe wouldn't have picked out yourself, which can be super important as well. Tip number 9 is to take your book with you wherever you are going. If you take the bus to work or to school, that is an amazing tip because you can read on the bus. If you have a lunch break at work or at school, bring your book and read instead of going on your phone. Trust me, you'll find it much more enjoyable, and you'll be surprised how many pages you can get through in just that short little lunch break. Tip number 10 is to actually reward yourself when you finish your books. It is a huge accomplishment when you finish a book, and don't pretend that it is not. Especially if you're trying to get back into reading, it's not always easy. So when you actually complete that book, figure out some sort of reward to treat yourself for finishing. Whether that's actually maybe watching some Netflix, or taking a bath, or even purchasing a new book, make sure you figure out some sort of treat for you because you deserve it. Alright guys, thank you so much for joining me for another video. Those are my 10 tips for getting back into reading. So make sure to check out some of the other videos I have. I post videos 3 times a week, and I post a lot of read with me's. Oh my gosh, that should have been a tip. Okay, tip 11. Put on Read with Kate in the background and read with me during that time. All right, guys, have an amazing week, and I will see you in the next video.